A House Divided. Abraham Lincoln, June 16, 1858. Lincoln was born on February 12, 1809, in Kentucky. He was born into a dirt-poor family and was mainly self-educated. In 1847, Lincoln joined the House of Representatives. In 1858, Lincoln ran for the United States Senate, but lost to Senator Stephen Douglas. In 1861, he became the 16th President of the United States. On April 15, 1865, he was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth in Ford's Theater. Lincoln's speech was given at the Republican State Convention while he accepted the Illinois Republican Party's nomination for the United States Senate. Lincoln's speech was about the rising issue of slavery in growing Western territories. He also spoke about the extent of the power of federal government over individual states' rights. Lincoln discussed the questions as to whether state or federal government made the final decision on slavery in each individual state. Lincoln's speech distinguished the growing divide between the northern and southern states due to their difference in opinions and reluctance to compromise. The speaker was Abraham Lincoln. The occasion was the Republican State Convention on June 16, 1858. Lincoln was accepting his nomination as the Republican Party's candidate for the U.S. Senate. The audience of this speech was the delegates at the Republican State Convention. The purpose of A House Divided was to launch Lincoln's campaign for the U.S. Senate. He also used it to address the issue of slavery in the U.S. and how the dividing of the nation could end in crisis. The subject of the speech is the growing divide between the southern and northern states due to slavery. Lincoln discussed the issue of whether state or federal government should make the final decision about slavery. Lincoln also spoke about how much power the federal government had over the individual states' rights at the time. The tone of the speech is cautionary and optimistic. Lincoln organized his speech logically by using the Dred Scott Supreme Court case and the Nebraska Bill to support his initial claim. Lincoln's narrative style supported his claim in the beginning of his speech with proofs. The diction of the speech is both formal and literal. In his speech, Lincoln uses imagery to compare his opponent Douglas to a lion when he mentions the quote, "A living dog is better than a dead lion." He describes Douglas as a toothless and caged lion. Lincoln is saying that Douglas is a politician that doesn't voice his opinion because he isn't brave enough. Lincoln goes into specific detail about what happened with the ruling of the Dred Scott case and how the Supreme Court came about it. He also discussed factors of the Nebraska Bill. Lincoln spoke to his audience formally. Lincoln used pathos in his speech when he directly addressed all of the delegates in the room by reminding his fellow Republicans of how much they have battled against slavery in the United States and that they must keep fighting. Lincoln uses pathos to show his character by stating that he did not want to be personally offensive to Douglas in any way, nor did he want to misrepresent his position after he questioned Douglas's opinions on policies of slavery. Lincoln uses logos when he asked the delegates if they fought so hard for the abolishment of slavery to just give up now, while they have a slight advantage over their enemy. Lincoln used multiple rhetorical questions throughout his speech to make points about federal and state government powers. He also used rhetorical questions to make points about Senator Douglas. Lincoln used metabasis to transition from the topic of slavery in individual states to his campaign opponent, Senator Douglas. Lincoln used syndeton when he added extra conjunctions into his sentences. Lincoln used a simile when he said that squatter sovereignty tumbled down like temporary scaffolding. He also used a simile when he compared the elimination of squatter sovereignty to mold at the foundry. Lincoln used personification when he said that squatter sovereignty squatted out of existence, giving squatter sovereignty a human action. Squatter sovereignty is the sacred right to self-government.